Hey everybody, and welcome to the Rabbit Trail Podcast. This is episode number 134.
134.
Yeah, we got it. You want
I
to add
swear,
anything
you
to that
guys
one?
just repeat each other. You guys say the exact same
I
thing.
am. I said,
right?
no, I've stopped saying 134 a long time ago because I want to speed up the intro, but we never did. Anyway, so yeah, exactly. Well, this is the, for those of you who are new, this is the podcast where we chase the truth wherever it runs. And what we mean by that is the opportunity to basically look into the topic that's been brought up by the sermon on Sunday morning and issues maybe we dropped on the floor or the questions that you guys have about it. And today I've got my wife with me. This is Theressa, and she's going to be jumping in because we've had requests that we have a female voice on here, and Brent's voice wasn't enough.
And secondarily, one reason why she's here today too is because when I'm not here, sometimes she fills in, and we just wanted to make sure everybody knew we are two separate people. So
it's not Brent in a
wig. We wanted to make sure you
So-
saw us both in the same room at the same time and realized we are different people. So
They don't know that. This could all be created by AI.
Yes.
this is true.
Not anymore. We're in California.
But anyway, this is my, want to welcome everybody else and those of you who are joining us. And you guys go ahead and say hi since we've all been talking anyway.
Hello, my name is Stephen Oldham. I'm the local outreach pastor here at Olive Branch. And yeah, we'd like to know where you're watching or listening to us at the podcast. So if you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple, give us I guess it's 5 stars there, and just subscribe. And then if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the like bell and subscribe and hit the bell, and you'll get all of the stuff from the church. So that'd be great.
And I'm Brent Branchard. I'm the Connections Pastor here at Olive Branch Church. And we would love to hear your feedback, your comments, and especially your questions and concerns. So email those to rabbittrail@obcc.church, rabbittrail@obcc.church. It doesn't have to be specific to the topics we're talking about. If you just have any life situation or any theological question, we would love to discuss that.
Yeah, I just realized when you say the Rabbit Trail obcc.church, you repeat yourself,
I know,
just like you repeat me.
but I don't do it with the same tonality.
No, that's true.
Rabbit Trail at obcc.church. Rabbit Trail at obcc.church. See, there, now you just added a whole new segment to the opening that you're trying to get through faster. So, all right.
We're also trying to have some fun. So why don't you? While we're gonna take off, why don't you go ahead and start us off with Brent and his terrible jokes?
Brent and his terrible jokes. Okay, so I got a couple of them.
Okay.
Number one.
We're gonna see how Theressa responds.
I don't know if I said this one before, but I don't think so.
Oh, no.
But, when Adam and Eve fell in the garden, what was one of the first things God did? Truly, theologically, what did he do?
He asked a question.
And then he made clothes for them. So, does that mean laundry is part of the fall? Just asking. But we have a bulletin blooper.
Folding it is.
Huh?
Maybe folding it.
Will there be laundry in the new heavens and new earth then?
I don't know, but it's something to consider. Bulletin bloopers. I love these things. The bulletin said this: for those of you who have children and don't know it, we have a nursery downstairs. Bada bing, bada boom.
Can you know that you don't have children, Theressa? She's like staying out of this.
All right. So, and thirdly, just to make up because I wasn't here last week.
Uh-oh.
But,
There's
Three. This is a special day.
I know. I'm feeling good. I'm
You
not.
should
in
just
pain,
repeat the
so-
same one over again since that's what this theme is.
I'm feeling good right now. So started exercising, and I realized my favorite exercises is kind of between a lunge and a crunch. I call it lunch. Okay.
That's believable.
Sorry. All right. Boom. Now Stephen and his first impressions.
Ooh. So what's going on out there? For Stephen's first impressions, we talk about like what Stephen's finding out on the dark side of the internet.
Well, I might have to clean up one here, but the other one I would like to ask is that they did comment about the video that was shot about our church. Maybe we could talk about that next week or something. Or sometime in the future, just the video that people shot here.
Somebody asked a question about it?
Somebody put a comment on our YouTube page about it. So, but yeah, we're aware. which is fine.
We didn't ask for them. I just don't know. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'd love to talk about it in the future. It doesn't have to be today, though. But the other one is I got to censor a bit because it's based off of no vestigial organs, which is honor every part of the body, talking about the body as a metaphor.
Uh-oh.
And someone posted a joke. So it says the
this
vital.
Is Stephen and his terrible jokes now.
This is not me. This is.
This doesn't have to do with circumcision, right, Stephen?
No. This is Menelao 7872. The vital organs were having an intense argument about which came first in the body. So the butthole shut down and temporarily to teach them a lesson. And so that was the comment on your. I edited the word butt. So.
Yes. Wow.
Wow.
Somebody shared a joke. You share jokes, so someone's like sharing jokes back.
Now the fact that you said that you made a point of saying I cleaned this up.
Yeah.
And I said but instead made me in my head think the other word. Thank you, Stephen. Now I'm going to repent in just a few minutes. But,
You're welcome.
yeah.
Now you know about yourself. The other one is just responding, I guess, to your face. The truth about welfare, debunking myths and exposing things. They just put, hey, Mr. Grumpy Pants or Grumpy Face. I don't know if that's a comment.
Am I grumpy?
I don't know if it was from the video or what. It just, the person's name is SOSOOIOIOIOIOIO34.
I-O.
So
It's off to work we go.
I'm Mr. Grumpy Pants. Hi, everybody. We're
Grumpy, happy,
Pants.
sleepy.
Yeah, tired, sleepy.
I have no idea.
Snow White.
Snow White. That's
Okay.
sweet.
And the last one is from Did Jesus Actually Exist? Because we had that conversation. There's a short. He was either a real as it gets or he was an enigma of all enigmas. I'll be humble enough to admit that as a human, I can't claim to know the absolute truth to that. But I know that the scales are leaning. I know how the scales are leaning. So I don't know if that means positive or negative for Scapegoat 1313, where the scales are leaning on his ability to know God. But I do think it's funny that he doesn't believe in it, and he's questioning absolutes, but he knows that he doesn't claim absolutes as truth. So is that absolute or not?
That's a good question. What do you think?
So that was interesting. I think he's commented a couple times, so we'll see.
All right. Well,
I
we're
think
glad.
that is how you discover whether Christ is real or not, as you weigh the evidence. So that's good. We're on the right scales, I guess, on the right path.
Yeah, I mean, we did cover off on all that last time, so I don't feel like we need to continue down that journey much, do we?
No, if he comments again, we will.
Cool.
Good.
I think we can move on.
All right, Brent, take us on. Let's get going.
So this was a sermon we were doing in a series called Friends.irl, and this one was how to commit as friends, and it was the passages you used primarily was
It's not how to commit a friend, right?
Yeah.
That's a different.
That's a phone call.
My friends were trying to get me committed.
How to commit a friend.
So John 15 verses 12 through 15. But one of the things that you started off the sermon talking about was the DTR talk, in relationships. And so I just thought we could kind of flesh that out a little bit, and for those that don't know what that means, it's like define the relationship. And usually
Did you call it that when you were younger?
No, I don't. I don't think we ever did any of that. I mean, we did define the relationship by like going, "I got you this really cheap ring. You want to go steady?" But
Wow, you were still going steady when that was still a thing, huh?
That was still a thing.
When did that disappear?
I don't know.
You were alive, so you can tell us.
I don't know. I don't know when it went away, because there was a big gap between by the time my kids were old enough to go steady and I was young enough to go steady. So I don't know where culture changed, but I know that at some point you're spending a lot of time together, and then it's like, okay, let's just clarify this. Let's determine the relationship. Are we a couple? Are we not a couple? And so I did think that it would be kind of cool to talk about what it looks like to define the relationship with Jesus Christ. What does that mean? What does that look like?
You mean?
Yeah, I mean, what is it? What are the questions you need to answer. I mean, so like if I'm seeing somebody, right, and it's like, okay, this is time for the define the relationship talk. Some of those conversations are going to be, are we exclusive? Are we free to see other people? Are we, and so I think really kind of like some of those questions apply when you're talking about your relationship with God. Is your relationship with Christ an exclusive relationship? Or is it, and I don't mean exclusive like you don't share it with anybody, but it's exclusive, or is he just one of these things that you have brought into your life? Is he one of many, or is he one of one? So I would just talk, that, or do you have a more casual relationship with God? So I mean, what are some of the other thoughts or questions that you would think that you would have to sit down and analyze in order to really determine your relationship with God?
Yeah, well, it's a truth claim in some senses, so it's different. I think a relationship with a deity is different, but it is similar in some ways to a partnered relationship, but it's also similar to a friendship. But there's also a lordship aspect to it as well. I think you have to realize, do you believe Jesus was a real person? First off, you have to determine whether those facts were true and real. And once you start thinking, okay, this is a possibility, then you start to think about praying and what does the Bible say? What did Jesus say he was? Who does he claim to be? And if those claims are true, what is my response to that? And so wherever you're at in that particular beginning of your journey, you might still be in the, I don't know if this is true, I'm still exploring. If you're earnestly seeking truth, I think you'll find it. I think if you're looking for something you don't want to submit to, because usually people like things about Jesus, like, oh, he says really cool things. I can change my life around it. I could hang out with people that love Jesus and treat each other better. Some people come to church just to look for a relationship because they find the caliber of relationships they think are better. That's all fine, but it gets to that lordship question, and that's the one in which people go, well, that's the one I don't want to surrender. And once you get to that point, you have to decide, are you going to surrender your life to this God, a deity, and worship him as your Lord? That doesn't just mean that you're just in that situation only. There's other aspects like caring and loving and interacting with God. But I do think if you approach it that way, it's just like anything else in a relationship. You're discovering the reality of it. Is this true? Is this real? Does this person really care for me? And when you look at the history of what Christ did on the cross, it's pretty clear that he cares about you, cares for you. And then it's just a matter of, do you believe what he says? And if you believe that, then you're willing to make a commitment to that because he made the commitment first. So that's how I look at it if you're looking at it in terms of relationships. So wherever you are on that journey, I think it's to be honest. Oftentimes, it's okay if people come to church and just be like, I don't really know, I'm just checking it out. And I think everybody needs to be okay with that person checking it out. Let them approach Christ at their own level. Let them figure it out. Let them explore and ask their questions. And the other thing I just wish that people would do is just air their grievances, because we're not afraid to hear them. Mm-hmm. So if you have I don't know how to believe someone rose from the dead. No one's ever done that before. Okay, well, let's talk about that, because I understand the difficulties of that discovery, because everybody in the church has to reconcile with that at some point in their life. Do I really believe this? Is this really true? And so you're not alone in that discovery. So the idea of just being transparent about your journey and then letting people hold you accountable to your own truth. You claimed you're exploring. I'm going to ask, are you really exploring, or are you going after that girl? Or are you coming to church because you like the way it feels? That's fine, but at least we need to know where we're at so that, I don't make false impressions of where you're at in your life. I think that's just an honest relationship. Anyone would do that for you.
The only one that came to my mind as we were talking is when we would do youth ministry, we would, it was always important that you help students come to say that Christ was theirs. I think I didn't grow up in the church, so I mean, you could speak to this better than I can, but there's this idea or this feeling that a student needs to cross the line of no, Jesus is mine. Jesus is my relationship. It's not the one I'm having through my parents. Did you have to go through that process at all?
Yeah, definitely. I think that my brain is thinking about something else.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. So yeah, I think that has to happen, especially if you grow up in the church and not feel like you're inheriting a relationship, but it's like you're choosing. But I think along the lines with what Stephen was saying is that the the relationship is so different with God because he's already defined himself. He's defined the relationship. He's laid everything out. And so it's really us coming to the table and receiving those parameters, and kind of joining him in that relationship. And I definitely think that if you grew up in the church, that's a different process, because sometimes, like what Stephen said, is people aren't honest with why they're here. And a lot of times people are at church not to pursue God. They're pursuing the community. They're pursuing maybe a specific person. Maybe they're learning about something. So maybe they feel like it helps and makes their life better. But in reality, if they were honest with themselves, it's not actually about God. It's not about them knowing God and trusting God and growing in God, So
Now, for you, because Greg and I did not grow up in Christian households. You did. So when you're growing up in a Christian household and you get to that point in your life when you realize, number one, I don't really have any sin issues in my life. I have lived a perfect life. How do you come to that recollection that I need Jesus?
Yeah, I think that the cool thing, and this is something Greg and I have talked about a lot, is that, a lot of people when I grew up would talk about, I don't have an amazing testimony. And the amazing testimony was like, they were a drug addict and God saved them from that. And then they became, sober. And I actually have always not held that view. While I do think that those are amazing testimonies, I think that the greatest miracle that God ever does is in the human heart. And so I think the beauty of growing up in the church, if you truly pursue God and you know him, is that, you don't have to be a drug addict to know God. And God, if you're pursuing God, he's gracious to reveal your heart to you. He will show you your sinfulness without having to, be doing things that are like on that end. And I think that for me, I always have felt like God was gracious to me to show me my sinfulness without having to be into drugs or sex or, other things. Like I felt like he was revealing just the depth of my need for him. And I think part of the problem when people are raised in the church and they're not actually pursuing God, then that's not happening for them. They're not understanding their sin. They're not coming to terms with who they really are and how their depth of need for God. So I'm a firm believer in that you don't need to do really horrible things and be a prostitute before you know your need for God. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
It did, and you answered that question well, but I'm not sure if you really cut the nuance that it wasn't a real question. It was just a sarcastic.
Yeah, but Brent.
So we've never been on this before, so I do make
you haven't ever been
silly
with
statements.
I thought I have without Steve.
Yeah, she's been on here.
With me?
With you?
Well,
I don't know with you.
That's what I'm saying.
It's hard to follow me. It's hard for me to follow all of you guys, so you can't joke with me because I won't pick it up. I'm trying to pay attention. Like, okay, what are they talking about?
So,
I think that leads me to I like that the concept of how this relates to God when we talk about those levels. Like, are you just hanging out with him as a teammate, or if he's just part of your crowd, he's out there somewhere, their intimate relationship? I know you had some thoughts you wanted to share. Did you have any? Did you kind of get to those?
One of the things that I had jotted down, and you had touched on it when you were giving that answer, was that he has already... No, there's a real answer to a really bad question. I was just goofing around like, if you grew up in a Christian home, there is no sin in your life, and you've never done anything wrong. But that you had mentioned that, well, Christ already defined the relationship. So what were some of the things that he claimed as a prerequisite for that relationship to determine it? You know what I'm saying?
Are you asking me specifically, or?
Yeah, well, you said that he determined the relationship
so I feel like,
already.
You know, he came to earth, he defined himself, he revealed himself. That's one of the biggest beauties in Christianity, is that God revealed himself to his people. He wants to be known. We can't know God unless he chooses to make himself known, and he has. He's made himself known in Christ and through creation and through the Bible. And so there's all these ways as humans that we get to kind of know God. And so I think him defining the relationship first is that he's God and we're not, that we're sinful and there's something broken in our relationship, and that there's something that needs to be repaired in that. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it. And I think that the question leads to in this whole defining the relationship, and since going back to what Anna kind of asked us last week, is do you think that there's a difference between maybe how God relates to men and women, or in that defining point? Is there ways that he approaches men differently than women, do you think, or what are your thoughts on that?
I just had a funny quote in my head in that movie Susan Griffin, God Counts the Tears of Women. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
It's like about Hasidic Jewish community. Anyways, I think that there's, as far as the generalizations apply to you, like, I don't think that you can say specifically that God relates differently to men and women. I feel like it's more of an individual.
Yeah, even
basis.
more individualistic than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he responds to you perfectly.
Yeah.
And if a part of that is some aspect that matches most of what is feminine in the culture or how you were raised, I think he meets you in that, or masculine, he'll meet you in that. So, yeah, I think it is individualized just because he knows us so well.
So what are some of the issues that you had with people that you wanted a friendship with, and it made it difficult to form a friendship with?
Really quick.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think that I learned this years ago. I read it in a book, and it was life-changing for me, and I don't know if it will be for anybody else, but, oftentimes, I know for women, I don't know that this is true for men, but a lot of women find people, and they're like, oh, I want to be friends with her, like, she's so cool, and she's so neat, and she, we have some similarities, and then you'll pursue that friendship, but there's no reciprocation, and so you're the one, like, pursuing it. And so one of the biggest things when you're pursuing relationships is really looking for a reciprocation, because somebody really genuinely might be a great person and might be this amazing friend to other people, but it's not working with you. And so I think that for women, one of the advice was look for reciprocation. So as you pursue friendships, don't just find the people that you want to be friends with, but find the people that actually reciprocate also. So as you're pursuing them,
yeah, so
they're like reciprocating.
That's been one of the critical things when trying to find a friend, has been a lack of reciprocation. Kind of like you're reaching out, and eventually you're so exhausted of reaching out that you're done. You're just it's not coming back at, or you opened the door of your heart. You shared your dream, you shared your vision, you shared maybe your sin or your struggle, and they're just like, oh, thanks. And they want to talk, but they don't want to talk about themselves. Like, one of you is known and the other one is like somehow caught the idea that, oh, I just need to listen. Yeah, or I'm not going to tell you at the same level. Like, that's another frustration that I've seen, is like that has caused friendships to be hard. It's like you'll open the depth of it, you'll explain the why, and they just go, well, I'll give it to you flat. And that's tough too, because then you feel very kind of off balance. It's not really even. So that's been one of the
There's no shame in that. I think that for me, what really helped me was to realize it's not a big deal if somebody doesn't want to be your friend. Like, just move on and look for somebody that wants to reciprocate. And obviously we're talking about not like tribe or teammate necessarily. We're talking about like more that true friendship, that like that inner circle kind of, you're looking for that person. And I think that that's something that you have to find, is reciprocation.
Do you think that's one of the differences between men and women, is the fact that I don't know if I remember a time where it said, I want to pursue that person as my friend. And women are more social in that regard. They see someone in the circle and they want to. I've seen that with men when someone's like powerful or strong, or just people want to be popular. But I never heard anybody vocalize it or say like, why doesn't he want to be my friend? I've never had a guy say that to me that I can remember.
Definitely a female trait. And probably not every female.
No, sure.
I've definitely had conversations with friends. I've experienced it myself. And then I've also had conversations with some friends who, were pursuing other people in their life friendship-wise, and then they had to come to the conclusion that like, okay, they don't want to be my friend. And I think that we have to take it down to a level where it's not a big deal. It doesn't mean that you're terrible, or they're like, maybe they have enough friends, or maybe like there's not enough intersection for them. I do think that if you really want to be friends with somebody, then like you said, just ask and say, hey, like, where are we at? Like, I would really like more commitment from you. And then they can tell you.
I found one of the most helpful ways, though, is just writing a note and just saying,
yes
I
or
really
no.
like you. Will you be my friend?
You got to put the little box.
Yes or no. And then have a friend deliver it.
You have to pretend like you're sneezing and then drop it on their desk.
Yeah. I thought the way men made friends was like you just picked a fight, beat the tar out of each other, and then you're best friends for the rest of your life.
With men, there's this tendency to be like, oh, I think we're friends. Or is that a thing? We're friends, right? Or you think that you're friends, and then you find out, oh, we're not friends. But I don't know if more like a discovery than a willful act. At least that's my experience. I don't know if that's everybody's experience.
So do you think that it's more like women can skip the teammate level to be friends, and men, I really feel like men need that, like, we all agree on this thing? Because, I mean, Lewis is the one who wrote that, and he was a man, and Justin Early wrote that, and he was a man. But when I read Rebecca McLaughlin's book... That wasn't in there. It wasn't in there. There wasn't this need to be a part of a community, and then you find your friends. It was really just like, oh, no, we meet people, and we're friends. And I'm like, huh, that's not really how it seems to... do you think that might be a difference? Like, women have the ability to move past that level quicker?
Yeah, possibly. It might be a personality difference, too. I mean, I think of a lot of...
There's also people-pleasing aspects to that.
Yeah.
Wanting people to like you is a thing for both men and women. So if you are someone that wants people to like you, I have not understood that as a young kid. So I didn't really... The people that thought were popular in school, I never cared for. And I never cared that they were in the majority, and that bothered them. But it didn't bother me. I just want to be left alone. Yeah. And I do think that there is some people that really do want to be a part of a group so bad, they don't care what the group means or what the group feels like or has any virtues.
Well, and I think, too, it's hard when you have to really define, like, okay, so you're talking about the tribe, the team, or the friend. And I feel like what you were talking about on Sunday was really more that true, authentic friend who really knows you. And I think that there's so much involved in that. It's not just, I know you talk about like the black box.
Yeah, yeah.
And not to say that that's not part of it, but I really think it's more than that. Like, vulnerability is more than just like, oh, this is, one of the issues that I'm struggling with in sin, but it's like, these are my hopes and dreams. These are my insecurities. And even that sometimes is hard to share with people, and I think sometimes that's actually harder than sin, because we've already defined sin in the church for the most part. I know that is still iffy for some people, but we can say, oh, I'm struggling with anger towards my kids, but it's a lot harder to say, I'm really insecure about my mothering, and like, can we talk through that?
Or I really feel like I've hit midlife and I don't have anything that I've accomplished.
Yeah.
That would be like something I think you can hear from men quite often.
And I think part of it too, when it comes to defining the relationship, is being okay with different forms of relationship and friendship, right? If somebody can be your friend, right, but it's more of a casual friendship, and then those people that you go deeper with that really become the deep friend, I mean, one way that you're that to them and they are to you is that friendships become inconvenient. I mean, you got to give of yourself when you don't want to give, and not just make time for them when all the stars are aligned and and your schedule is completely free. I mean, sometimes it's inconvenient to be friends with somebody.
I found that especially true with you.
I know. And then when they blow you off, and they didn't show up Friday morning for murder solving game because they all forgot about it, and you're sitting home all alone.
Oh, are we still doing that?
With chips on the tip? No, we're not. Yeah. We don't have anything going right now. But there are times where it's like, okay, we didn't confirm it this week, but they should be here at 11 o'clock. And then all of a sudden it's like, you guys coming? Oh, no, forgot. And it's just like, obviously, I have a deeper friendship with them than they do with me. And so,
spoken like a girl dad.
Yes, I am a father of two. I had no sons. I had no brothers. I am definitely skewed to the
towards the feminine.
Yes, a mom, two sisters, two daughters.
Yeah. Well, and I think when you're talking about, because you mentioned too, like there's difference in, you can be friends, you can be a teammate, but when you're really, I want to like really hone in on like, if you're trying to find people that you would consider that true, authentic friendship, that is like on your inner circle, that really you're going to let them know you fully. Greg mentioned a book, I think it was last week, Safe People. Did you mention that?
We did talk about it.
You guys talked about it. And you said, what are the things that you're going to look for? And so I just wanted to read some of these things that if you're looking for, safe people, some of like more true, authentic friendships. And remember, that's like not everybody in your life. This is just a few people. They listen first.
No, they don't listen.
They can.
They listen so that they can give you advice. They don't listen
Let me mansplain something
Yeah.
to you. No.
Shush. They don't disregard your feelings. They really hear you. The other thing too is that they can be you can disagree with them, and they're not going to freak out on you. I think that is a huge thing to look for if you're looking for that true, authentic friendship. You've got to be able to disagree about things.
Say that one again.
So they can disagree with you, and there's not like a fear involved if you're going to tell them something that you know that they're going to disagree about.
And that's huge because that's not our culture
It's
right
not our
now.
culture.
Like that, I feel like we're creating a world of unsafe people in some sense. I mean, I don't want to keep going. I would love to touch on that later.
So, yeah, it's kind of similar. The ability to acknowledge different points of view. Let's see, they're not like just self-focused, so they're able to like think about you. So they're not just talking about themselves, but they ask you questions. And there's a lot more. Honestly, we really recommend reading that book. It's
It's a good book.
It's a really good book.
Yeah, it was introduced to me by Stephen. So
Yeah, we really
I like the
appreciated
boundary
it.
books.
And the safe book too, I think, will help you not just identify what characteristics you're looking for in a friend, but also in what you should be striving
How to be safe.
as a friend. Like, how can I be a safe
I
person?
think that's really key in a lot of what we're talking about is that always, whenever we're talking about the other person, remind yourself, I should be talking about myself. Because there's a tendency to talk about how do I define the relationship and how do I find these people? Well, be the kind of person that wants to be found. Be the kind of person that is like that, and you'll oftentimes find if everybody attempts that, if everybody monitors themselves, I think more friendships will erupt more naturally anyway. But
Yeah, and safe people, it talks about how to manage people that are in your life that are unsafe because you can't cut everybody out. But our culture is desperately trying to cut people out that don't confirm their worldview or can't hear things different than how they perceive reality.
I mean, that's why I've been trying to get
that inner place
Yeah.
of your life,
Know
like
what kind of-
you can
where
interact
they
with
fall
them,
in your
but
life.
like you kind of leave them at a certain point, so that way it's safer for you. Like they're not.
And I think that men have a tendency to cut faster because it's just easy. We're easier to just not have relationships. We
away.
tend to be loners and where we got our stuff to do, we're busy. But I think women have a tendency to have a harder time undoing that, maybe, or drawing that boundary at times. Would you say you've seen that? Or
And Theressa was talking a little bit about that earlier, but one of the things that I noticed too is, like, not just even cut the relationship short, but not be so engaged in the relationship. Because, I mean, I have such deep friendships with some guys that I don't talk to, like, except every 5 years, And I feel like, for the most part, women to a large degree, and I hate doing this because it sounds very stereotypical, but women who are close friends, it's like you want to know every detail of their life. You want to talk to them, numerous times a week or on an ongoing basis. Where guys are comfortable with limited information, and we don't have to talk and connect.
So what's your point, Brent?
Every day.
Are you saying that men are better?
No, I don't know that it's better. I don't, but I do,
just
because like
distinguishing the
Greg said,
difference.
I think guys are more isolatory to a certain degree, even if that's a word. I
Brent
think I
and
just
his
made a word
inventions.
up.
I'm going to start writing them down.
But
Dictionary
but
of Brent.
we don't need all of that connection. Again, we joked about it before, but you call up your buddy that just had a baby, you get off the phone, and it's like, I know it's a boy, I know it was healthy, and I know its name is Brad, And then she wants to know, well, how long was the labor? And how, what time was it born? And how much did it weigh? How long was it? How,
what was its score on the?
Yeah. And it's like,
funny.
okay, I was not asking those questions. And we were joking earlier about Nate Bergazzi or something on the golf course, spending 5 hours with his buddy. And how's he doing? I guess he's doing good. Well, did you hear that him and his wife split up? Nope, never came up.
That's funny.
But what do you think, Theressa, about the isolatory aspect of guys and women and
I don't know. I think that like women have more things that they can, like with their children, like especially women that stay home with their kids, they have kids and they can hang out and be over that. I don't know. I'm not sure specifically about, sorry, that transition.
I'm the one who said, like, I think men isolate more. It's a tendency for I think what we see is guys have a tendency to get busy in their work, and I think women are doing this more and more often. I think loneliness has increased because women have entered into a work world that, quite honestly, is isolatory, to coin a phrase. I don't know where I've ever heard this before.
This is a smart man probably coined that phrase.
and so, I mean, like, you've got commuting, you've got all these things that it's funny because I always look at, like, the freeways and I go, like, why is it a 2+ lane? Like, wouldn't you think it's like a 3+ lane? But no, you look around, the majority of cars are one person going to work. Mm-hmm. And there is an isolation about the work world. Mm-hmm. And I think when you're at home, if you're doing the standard, like if you were doing like the mom at home thing, even dads at home, like we know some dads who are at home, like you need other people because those kids will drive you crazy if you don't get a chance to go talk to people. And like we said, I think it was last week, I was listening to a Breakpoint podcast by John Stone Street, and he was describing the new levels of anxiety that are going on with moms and dads, that they're at a point where like parenting is the worst and a horrible thing in the world and it's so hard and it's so anxiety, and because like play dates have dropped from what was once 1 hour per week to half hour per week. It's like dropped in half. Like I can't imagine.
It's crazy. It's a personality thing too. I'm an initiator with friendship, so I'm not an isolator. I'm just not like that. Mm-hmm. So I can't speak for everybody, but like, I mean, we had people over at our house all the time when our kids were little. And I mean, you know, we'd have 10, 20 kids running around and lots of moms. And so I know that's not, I think that was more common like 20 years ago. My younger mom friends, I feel like they have less of that. But even back then, I think that it was more of a personality thing for me. So I can't speak to everybody. You know what I mean? I'm like, It's more of like my own experience.
And just to clarify for any of you that are trying to look up the word isolatory on the internet, just to clarify, so the person is isolatory, but the act itself is called isolatorial. You're being isolatorial or you are isolatory. So...
Are you gonna write You're gonna write a dictionary?
Yeah, one is a verb and one is a noun.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know anything specific, but I know I've heard on a couple of podcasts where women that are taking hormones and starting to live like a man have experienced extreme isolation, and they are like really struggling. They never realized how isolating it could be to be a man. Now, we don't know if it's, you know, the idea of being trans or like what's causing that, but I've heard it from multiple sources that like they experienced something that they haven't experienced when they were being a woman. I don't know how to say it, but you know what I mean. And so I find that when they were living as a woman or when they're living as a man, there's way more isolation and a difficulty bonding and difficulty having that intimacy. Maybe it's because nobody's asking them exactly what happened in their day. Yeah. And they're like, I really want to share every detail of my day to somebody, and nobody's asking.
Because we don't care?
We're isolatorial.
He's going on it. It's just like, apparently men invent weird words too. Whoa. So
one of our lights went out.
That's right.
We'll real quick before we get into that, I do think we didn't have play dates when I was a kid. We just went outside and played. we didn't have to actually make a date. There were just people that you went and hung out with, where you called them up and said, "Hey, what are you doing? I'm going to drive my bike over and see," you know. And now we have to actually like agendaize that, put it in there because my schedule is full and I've got to make time to do that. Also, I think what used to be communal activities, like everybody in a neighborhood going to a ballpark, is now I drive to this other ballpark because I'm in this special league, and it's just all isolated, and there's not just people living together, they're living as a little unit. unit. And it used to be that people are designed to be in community, and now you've broken it up just into the family units. So a mother or a father is having to do everything that a group of people would do together, and they're all having to do it within an entire household. So that makes it more stressful. So things like, just the nurturing parts of kids, and so you see some of this homeschool stuff has helped in some regards because there are people coming together, homeschooling together at least, and it's a little more communal. But it used to be, people would just do that. They would teach their own kids. They wouldn't have anyone over, and they would kind of control the relationships. So that is a tendency within Christianity, but also within our culture. And I think that's led to a lot of loneliness in people's minds. And it makes it harder to make friends because you have to find friends that fit into your individualized world that you've created, which is full of these kinds of activities. So only those people involved in those activities can interact. And I just seen COVID destroy like whole communities of people that used to just call up and hang out, and now it's all, you gotta text them and make sure they're healthy and safe and well. So it's been kind of sad to watch, and then people just stop coming back to church to be community. So that's happened to quite a few people. So it's not getting better. It'll probably get worse. So I'm a little worried about the youngest generation because you have to advise them about things that used to be pretty obvious. Like, you've been seeing this girl for 6 months. Situation where you can't open up and look around and see if there's someone else here that you'd rather be with. And so having to teach those things that used to be more obvious a while ago, or what do you do on a date, or how do you have one that doesn't involve the internet? So just stuff like that, I think has become more of a way of isolating people more than they ever been before. So I worry about the emerging generations. I think they're starting to feel it more. So they're starting to be they're more suspicious of technology than some past generations. So the younger generation is probably going to start pushing for more in real life relational aspects to their friendships. Yeah.
My son said that at Chick-fil-A, they have talked about it in the back of the house. They talk about how they're going to control, not give their kids phones. They're going to limit their screen time. And here they are, they all have phones and they're on it a lot. So I think that there's a pushback and desire for more connection, and they see that it's, isolating to have a phone in your pocket, right? But before, you had to go to the TV in the family room. It's isolatory to have a cell phone, and you can just watch anything you want on the phone.
Well, the saddest thing they're having counseling kids, and they're finding this out with more and more children, is that their parents don't look them in the eye. It's not the other way around. We're all complaining about kids looking at their devices, and that's true. But little kids are complaining that their parents are not looking them in the eye, and they feel sad as a result. And that's come up in some of the counseling sessions with a lot of counselors. So you have a generation that never got eye contact and enough face contact with their parents. That feels isolatory.
Oh my
gosh. It's catching on, baby.
I think that, and
it's the new boom chakalaka. Now everywhere I go, I'm going to be hearing isolatory.
Isolating is the word, but it's not as fun.
But I think that, there's all these different relationships that we have that, we're at a time period in our culture where we're struggling with isolation and loneliness. And there's so many things, maybe since the Industrial Revolution, technology, all these things that are causing that. But the real, crux of it is to make a decision that, okay, I do need people in my life. I think as Christians, because we worship a Trinitarian God, we were made for community, and there's aspects of community that allow us to know God better, to allow us to know ourselves better, and it's necessary. I think making that choice that this is not something that I can just not have. This is something that we need. This is something that's worth pursuing. And then, okay, how am I going to pursue it properly? What am I going to do to have the right kind of friends and be the right kind of friend to other people, and just taking it seriously as a Christian. And I, just having dealt with some of the women in the women's ministry, it was very discouraging to me in one sense, because I felt like a lot of women want it, and very few are willing to put the effort into having those kind of great relationships.
I think that's true in general. Why is it that we don't want to put the energy in when we know we need it? Everybody feels it. Is it, do you think, lack of skill? Is it just, there's just this massive cultural press to keep us from like getting beyond our phones, getting out there? Is it this sudden, like, just I've been hurt so much that I can't get over the fear? I mean, a lot of us, like, it kind of goes back to your original question that we started all this with, which is like, what are the things that have held you from really finding or making friends? And that just, it is. This is a question, like, you need it. What's holding you back?
I think one of the things that holds us back, is just us as flawed people. Number one, there's a lot of things out there that are good for us that we don't pursue, right? And part of that is because it does interfere with your life. It is a sacrifice and a difficulty. And you look around, we're not good as people, for the most part, in being consistent with anything. We can get consistent, and I mean, sometimes we're enthusiastic when we start a diet or when we start to exercise in January, and by March we're not, eating healthy, stuff like that. We can start out enthusiastic. We don't maintain that consistency. And I mean, I know I've said this before, but that old adage that says, things that are good for you are hard to pick up and easy to put down, and things that are not good for you are easy to pick up and hard to put down. And I do think that, again, when it comes to friendship, I mean, we're good friends. We've been good friends for 20-something years. It's not easy to find a night where we could get together and hang out and play games or talk. And so sometimes I think people just go, okay, it's not worth the effort. I'll just do something simple. And I'm not comparing that part to it. But I just think that it's the consistency, it's the willingness to sacrifice, the willingness to let things interfere with your schedule, that make friendships difficult, even though we know they're good for us.
Well, then speak to the idea also, like, I don't know, Theressa, like we were talking about this before, that there's a tendency in, like, men, I think we just kind of like go, whatever. We just kind of move on and go live our life. But I think there's also this understanding in women that there is, like, they long for that other relationship, they want that other, but then at the same time you can get catty, or even like, it's like how.
I think that one of the things I've noticed in myself, and I think that I've noticed it in other people, but mostly in myself, is that I'm going to be a little bit more gracious to myself because I already know all my reasons for why I'm doing something and how I'm treating somebody. But I don't really know what's going on inside of somebody else, and I make a lot of assumptions, if they snub me or if they act a certain way or if they don't do what I was expecting them to do. I don't have any information, and so I'm just assuming, and I feel like I have a tendency to be a little bit harsher in my, like, assumptions about why they did what they did, and a little bit more gracious to myself because I know all my reasons and what was going on.
You've already rationalized it.
You've rationalized, yeah. And so I've seen it in people. Like, I feel like we are a little bit too easy on ourselves and a little bit too hard on other people and what we expect. And I think if we are going to be a church and a community that takes friendship seriously and is initiators, then we're going to have to expect more from ourselves than we do from other people. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to do that. And I do think that there's a lot of vulnerability in telling somebody, like, hey, I really desire a friendship with you. I desire more from you. And I think that puts you in a vulnerable place to be rejected. And so it's easier to allow the other person to pursue, or not.
So then nobody does.
And so I think that that's what's happening is there's just a lot of people not pursuing.
And kind of what you were describing there too, I do think, and again, I don't know if this is male or female specific in any way, but that offense you take a lot of times, I can be more gracious with myself and more hard on the other person. And I think part of that is because you're assigning motive. You're not just going, oh, they said they're busy and they can't meet. You start going, filling in these blanks of, okay, this is probably what's going on, and we assign to them a lot of blame that's not really there. And that's like when we talk about, counseling or relationship stuff, it's like, just deal with the problem, and go to them and say, seems like the last 5 times I've asked you, you've said no, is everything okay? Is there, but we instead of dealing with the issue, we start assigning motive to it, and then everything gets out of control.
And there's really only two healthy options you have. You can either let it go and not be offended and just trust that whatever they said was true, or you can ask them about it. And you can say, like, hey, this is how I received what you said. Is there something there? Like, what's going on? And I just think that most of us aren't willing to do that. We're not willing to have those hard conversations.
And I will say this. I am the type of person that really doesn't dwell on it. I kind of let it go. I don't let it affect me emotionally in a big way. But I know that's not entirely true, because it does come out in my passive aggressive and sarcasm and biting comments, and I do that all the time, and I know I do that. And
Brent, it really hurts.
I know. Talk to Nancy. But I mean, like with Nancy, we've been married for 41 years, right? So she's put up with that forever. But the other side too is most of the time I'm just joking, I'm not really being passive aggressive, but because of the wounds, it makes it hard for me to be able to joke with it, in that regard.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not healthy. And so again, I feel like I'm the type that just let it right off my back. It doesn't sweat. But I know, because things come out of me from a passive aggressive, sarcastic, biting comment type thing, that I probably hold on to more than I'm realizing I'm holding on to.
Yes.
So.
Well, not everybody's
So
self-aware.
here's the confession, guys.
You're confessing.
I'm amongst my true friends. I forgot about the cameras, and sorry to include you all into this therapy session, but I was kidding. I'm perfect. Don't even just erase that whole.
Can you go back and edit? Oh,
That was awkward silence.
Yes.
it's okay to have awkward silence.
Anybody have anything to say?
No, all that you're talking about is just, this is a human problem. There's a cognitive bias called the fundamental attribution error, where human beings in general attribute things of themselves that are personal because they know all the stuff's going on, and everything else is not personal. It's like stuff outside is affecting me, and you make excuses for yourself. But when someone else is doing it, it's all internal. It's their motives. It's their character. So that's a tendency of all human beings. And I think part of it is we just don't like not knowing stuff. So we kind of need to fill in those gaps with something in order to go off of something. I think it's good when you have friends, and it should just be okay with the ambiguity of not knowing. If someone does something, you can put it in the category, that was odd. I have no clue why they did that. And if it really bugs you, you probably should talk to them about it. And if they're honest, they'll give you an honest answer. But even then, it's not always clear that people even are aware that they're doing something,
or their own motives.
They don't always aware of what their own motives are. So I think that just frustrates people, that we're unaware and we need to know. But I think there are some operating procedures that you can. What I like about Christianity is it gives you a baseline outside of your own motives and to align yourself with. So God's like, well, be merciful because you don't know what's going on. In other words, be okay with the ambiguity of not knowing, and either reconcile with them or let it go. And once you find honest people, it's okay to talk to them about, like, this happened, I don't know. And you can explore different things, but always leave room for the fact that you probably don't know and may not ever know. And how do you want to treat people in that situation? And I think that's what crawls in people's heads. They just go, is that because of this or that, or I need to know, and you can obsess on things you may never get an answer to. And that, I think, will drive you crazy. If you really want to get to know someone, you're going to have these conversations, and they have to be out in the open. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're going to just keep filling in the gaps with whatever your past has led you to, whatever hurts you've had in your life. Or the saddest thing is to only use your life experiences to determine outcomes of people's motives. It's unfair to yourself, it's unfair to them, and it's probably less likely to be true. So I was in court case, and the lady was saying, I could never listen to the cop's advice on what he gave on the stand because he's a cop, and a cop did something to me, and I don't trust any cops. And I'm sad that one moment of her life led to all the future connections with a group of people that she just ruled out, regardless of knowing them or not, just because of a past hurt. And I get the idea that you can have that hurt, hold on to it, but yet still allow yourself to explore, is that really true? You have to be someone who believes in truth, first off. because what feels real is what you're feeling, but it isn't always true. And what I love about Christianity is it gives you those baselines, that it tells you your heart's very deceptive. Everything you feel isn't always true. You need to have something above yourself, a standard that you judge yourself on in order to continue through life and have healthy relationships. So it gives you scriptures. Like one of my favorite, the one is just like, you walk in light, and it says, let's say, it says, but if we walk in light, this is John 1:7, as he is in light, we have fellowship with one another. So it's like we walk in truth, God's truth. We now can see each other clearly, as the blood of Jesus, his son, cleanses us from all our sins. So what it's saying is you see clearly that you're all flawed because of the standard of Christ, and you all fall short of it. So you give mercy, and you have Jesus as your relationship that helps you deal with the hurt and the pain. But it automatically talks about, but it also helps you with the fellowship. Are you messed up? I'm messed up. Good thing we have Jesus to clear this up, because we can now wash ourselves and be clean. That's the basis of good Christian relationships, is that you have that as the baseline. I don't know what you do if you don't have that as a baseline. You have to go by just it would just be insane. You never know the motives of anybody and anyone's intentions ever, and you're always trying to get this need of being connected felt, and there's no standard but your own feelings. I think you would be lonely and isolated and always suspicious of whether the person really cares about you or not.
So again, talking about defining the relationship you have with God. Number one, we talked about, is it an exclusive relationship, or is it a casual relationship? Is he one of one or just one of many? And then I just kind of want to touch on this. We're probably coming to an end, but number one, does your relationship with Christ actually really interfere with your life? Because I do feel like that there is a pervasive thought out there that, and this is going to sound heretical, but it's not, that, at least I don't think it is. But, there's this pervasive thought, right, that, you're saved by faith, and that's it, which I know that to be true, right? But your faith and your commitment to Christ costs you nothing. It's a free gift of salvation, and it costs you nothing. And everything I see in the scriptures is that it costs you your very life. Yeah. And so again, I think your relationship with Christ absolutely interferes with your life. It costs you. The gift is free, but it costs you your very soul and your very life. And so
it's sort of like when Theressa was when she was younger, her parents bought her a car, and then it was free gift that cost her a lot of money because she had to pay for it on payments ever since.
Kind of like kids,
free gift.
Yeah, it's a free gift. Yeah, it's a free miracle from God. I think
that the free part is the like taking on Christ is the free part. But in order to take on Christ, you have to give him your life. It's not, that part isn't free. The exchange isn't free, but it's what we're given. It's not like we don't earn the righteousness that we gain from Christ. Right. That part is free. The righteousness is free. But first you have to give over your life to him, right? I mean,
yeah, and I do feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just feel like there's this pervasive thought out there that it is free, and basically,
so it is free. The gift is a free gift. That's Ephesians chapter 2. Right. It is a free gift from God. So you have to keep that terminology correct. It is free. He did it all for you.
Right.
The difference is that we're talking about when you receive it, are you willing to then respond to that gift in an allegiance? That's what faith means. Faith doesn't mean just like, I just trust you gave me the gift and now it's free by faith. It's the by faith is by allegiance. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to be after you. You gave me this. How could I not? And so it's really, are you responding rightly to being given everything? And so
let me ask you this,
it does cost you because you want to give him everything.
I am not arguing that it is a free gift. I know the scriptures are clear on that. I believe that. But the idea that, I'm going to give you something free, in one sense, it communicates to me that I'm receiving a gift that is absolutely free, and there are no conditions on that. So again, when it comes to this free gift of salvation, this free gift of a relationship with God, there are conditions in the sense that you need to repent from your sin. You need to follow me. You need to obey me, and my commandments, and surrender yourself, lay down your life, pick up your cross. So when you say free, it's not without conditions, right? Or am I totally off base here?
It's just the way you're constructing it that it's a debate between what's called lordship salvation and like free grace salvation. And I think it's a false dichotomy that you're setting up. And it's hard to nuance it, but...
What does this have to do with friendship?
Yeah, what does this have to do with friendships? But we'll get into that.
I'm just wondering.
So it is legitimately a gift given to you by God. The righteousness is Christ given to you. The salvation and eternity and the relationship with God is all dealt with by God. And therefore, all this stuff about repentance, this is how it appears. Like, if I know that you loved me like that, and you gave me your life, and I'm just like, oh, thanks. Did I really receive what you gave me? Did I really take in the import and the impact? No, it was ineffective. And that's what an affected recipient is going to go, you gave me your life. How could I but give you mine? You gave me eternity, and how could I but follow you? And so that's the critical difference. It's the response that is the cost. You're going to follow him but the entry and the gift and the reward is all a gift. It's all free. And so everything else is worship, and worship is literally a giving of my whole self to you out of a response to the free gift that you've given me. When we turn it around, you've got to repent and do these things in order to receive the gift. Well, that's a condition. No, it's given freely. It's offered freely. And it's a wooing mechanism. It is calling you to love. It is a friend who has given his life for you. And then you turn around and you just act like, oh, you're just like one of my buds. Like, no, that would be an inappropriate response. Like, everybody would shame you for that. Right. So I think so in that sense, when we talk about friendship with God, right, because you're kind of tapping towards that.
And I know it was like, does that have to do with friendship? It came down to the determining the relationship,
right.
Part of it. And it's like, okay, how do you define that relationship? And
I'm just blown away that God would do that. Yeah. And so why wouldn't I want to follow him? Why wouldn't I want to do these things? Now, do I do it perfectly? No, but that's the beauty of the relationship. It's like my heart is right in my desires and drives, and I'm running after that direction, and it's his grace that enables me to do that. It's actually the grace is the ability to give up for him, which is why friendship is a little different, right? With God than it is with us. God gave us his friendship. He called us his friends even before we would call him our friend. And so what this is like, you loved me even in spite of myself. Like, I don't want to even...
He's had people become his friends. He's had people reject him as a friend.
Right. I don't want to be, technically, if you're to be honest, many of us don't really want to be friends with ourselves. I think half of this love yourself, why it's so powerful and so like, oh, love yourself, is because you don't. And even when you try, you really don't. Because there's no basis to love yourself. If you started with, I'm not lovable, and I'm just going to tell myself, well, I just love myself. Well, what changed? You're still that grimy person you didn't love before. Now you're just okay with it? Like, how is that loving yourself? Like, you're not going to deal with yourself? You're not going to, like, oh, but that's not. And I think that we don't want to be friends with ourselves. But God wants to be your friend. He called you friend. Like, that's a huge shift because he was willing to bear your sins, die on the cross, rise from the dead. That's the difference, is God's already extended his friendship. He's already defined the relationship. Have you defined the relationship with him? That's the reversal.
And just for the record, I have never been accused of not loving myself. I'm my biggest fan.
That's very isolatorial of you.
Isolatorial.
Yes. It is. All right. So, do we have any final comments or?
I just wanted to encourage, if this isn't like the greatest resource, but it definitely is a good resource. If you're a female and you're like looking for friends and you want to try to find maybe more of like that core friendship, there's a book called Find Your People. And I don't think that you necessarily have to go through the whole book.
It's Jenny Allen, right?
It's Jenny Allen, and she just has some great questions. So like if you want to pick a couple friends and meet and ask the questions at the end of each chapter, I also encourage you to read the book. But I really like her questions more than anything because it's going to drive you into a deeper relationship with people. And I think that if you're going to go and try to find deeper relationships, you have to, try and then recognize when it's not working and be okay with that and move on and find somebody else.
In fact, she has, I believe, in Right Now Media. If you sign up for Right Now Media through our small groups, she actually has the book as a small group curriculum too. Mm-hmm. So you can actually do that with your group that you're trying to consider whether or not you want to be friends.
And you can find that at obcc.church and then go to connect and go to small groups. And if you scroll down, it says register for Right Now Media. It's something that we pay for as a church. It's free to you guys, and it's a great resource.
Yeah, and so, but just remembering that if you're a guy listening, it's written to women, so that's really a women's ministry resource.
Now let me ask you this. What was the name of the book again?
Find Your People.
Okay. And then if you're reading that about how to find your people, make friends, and do that, does it also kind of transition for like if instead of looking at people, if I'm looking at my relationship with God, how can I, how can that some of those
not necessarily,
principles
but one of the
transfer?
things that I think is core that we haven't really touched on is like in being intimate with people and having good connections. It's one of the ways that God sanctifies us. So like, and Stephen was talking, and what I was thinking about is that like not only is God the parameter, or not the parameter, but the
he's the ideal measure.
The ideal measure, but like it's when you bump up against other people and they're like, hey, like I noticed this about you, and they bring up something, you're gonna see yourself in a different light. Like you don't get to fully see yourself until you see yourself through other people's eyes. And so I think one of the core aspects, the reason why I think that intimate friendship is so core to Christianity is because I think it's one of the primary ways that we are sanctified. And so if you're not pursuing intimate relationships, then you're probably not being sanctified in a like full way. There's lots missing from your
and in that regard, I really do think that if you're not connected to people, you'll never be who God would want you to be completely without being in the fellowship, because he designed you to be that way.
And I think that's where people who get married, they think that's what marriage brings to them. When it's actually just relationships with other people. We'll do all of that, whether you're single or married. I think that's a critical kind of like when we're talking about this level of friendship.
Well, and I think that, a lot of people think that two great people, well, not just even two, but people get married and they, marriages are so hard. And the reality is it's not that marriage is hard. It's relationships are hard, and we're not good at relationships, friendships, family members, marriages, all of it. We're not good at any of it. And so I think as people, we need to start being better friends to each other. And then marriages are going to have less problems, because if you are a single person who knows how to be a good friend to somebody, and then you get married to somebody that knows how to be a good friend to somebody, you're going to have way less issues than if two people have never tried to be good friends to anybody and then they fall in love. It's going to be terrible.
Preach it. This is your thing, right?
This is my big thing. We need to focus on single friendships in the church.
And then the word sanctified is kind of a Christian word for being set apart for the use of God. So kind of like being isolatized for God's word.
I'm going to write that down. You're up to 3.
It's like reverse Sesame Street.
There you go. All right.
Hey, what's isolatized mean today, sir?
All right.
He does look like a big Sesame Street character sometimes, doesn't he? Yeah. Aw. No, just kidding.
That's why my wife loves me. She loves Sesame Street and the Muppets. We were going to Muppet movies, the first Muppet movie, before our kids were born.
Oh.
Yeah. I know you bought us the Muppet Christmas.
Yeah.
Do you know the story in our house, how Nathaniel hates that?
I knew
and
that one
he threw it away?
I knew that one of your kids hated it. It's the greatest version of the Christmas Carol
gave him
I ever
nightmares.
saw.
It terrifies him.
And it's a musical, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's a
We made him rebuy it though, because you're not allowed to just throw away somebody else's movie.
Well, that's all we got for you guys today. Thank you for hanging out with us, Tress. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Theressa.
If you do have questions for us, we'd love to hear from you. Please send us your emails at rabbittrail@obcc.church. And we're just glad that you were hanging out with us for today and spend some time with us. God bless you. Go make some great friends and have a great rest of your week.
Boom, chakalaka.
Bye.